Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. And I'm actually wondering if we are live streaming, even though we didn't mean to be live streaming right now, just
Try.
because we're trying to work the controls and it says recording and we're setting up a recording, but it's like you had to hit go live so if you're watching this live, welcome. And otherwise, we assume you're watching it later because we're really trying to make a recording. Hi, welcome to the Joko conversation for this week. I am Brother Youssef, a member of the Joko, a cultural worker, someone who works in the classroom, works as a poet, and works as a scholar, trying to make a contribution to creating the world we deserve. And I am joined by my comrade, my partner, and the actual original convener of the Joko, Tasha. Hi, Tasha.
Hi, Youssef, and greetings, everybody. And you know where this is going with our usual invocation, our usual beginning and recognition of our personal lineages, of the parenting forces, our direct parents, and our aunts and uncles, and our extended family, and our parents' friends, and all of the conditions of our life path that have brought us to be the kinds of people who are centered in bringing into being a just world, right? Bringing into being, coming out of this um, uh, just destruction, destruction of people, of people's places and things,
Yeah.
of the just really of the biosphere, right? The human beings and um, human living included. Um, as we're looking at this and we stand and we look around, and we who do not wink at injustice, as the ancient Egyptians said in the 42 Kujunu, can you say, I have not winked at injustice, right? Um, we're grateful for that. We're grateful for that consciousness, because there's nothing that says that just because we are, that we come to that kind of consciousness. And it's the kind of consciousness that helps things get better, right? Helps bring the world out of the misery that has been imposed upon it. And to make no mistake, we are all in misery, even if there are,
Mhm.
right? Even if there are some of us who have means of more often escaping and ignoring the misery. you know Everybody is aware of the misery, everybody is aware of the suffering.
Yeah.
So everybody who is living a life of cognitive dissonance on one level or another. um and so we're grateful for those forces in our personal lineage and our life path that bring us to this kind of to conviction, right? We're here to make this world better. um we salute, as members of the African uh, global family, we salute, recognize, acknowledge, uplift, choose your verb, those uh, members of the African world family, known and unknown, who have brought about great impacts through
Yes.
their imagination, through their courage, through their creativity, through all of those things to accomplish the same, right? Unmanacle um, our African family and the world families, global families, all oppressed global families, um, right? We have such incredible champions of a sane human life, right? Of good human life, of relief of suffering, championing the value, um, and I believe the popular description and dignity of humanity. Um, so we acknowledge the champions in our global families as children of Africa. And we never forget, and it never leaves our consciousness, that any work that we are doing to liberate ourselves, and members of other oppressed communities, we do on this Turtle Island, so called United States, so called California, so called Southern California, so called Los Angeles. We do that at the hospitality of the original people, on whose unceded lands we are living out our lives, right? We are walking through our lives and doing this work. Um, and for us in Los Angeles, those are Tongva people, the Tongva people. And so we um, recognize that it's at their hospitality, at the hospitality of their descendants who are still preserving uh, their culture and their life ways and their language and um, the memories, right? And not allowing themselves to be absorbed into some kind of fantasy that their life ways don't matter or have no impact or are no longer relevant because of the great march of, right, history toward European life ways supremacy. Um, so no, we understand that we were brought here with the settlers, and we are not part of the settler oppression. Right, we're children of Africa in alliance with uh, the children of Turtle Island, and so these are the kinds of things that we say when we're opening our program. And with that, I hand the mic back to Yusuf.
Yes, I would say we were brought here by the settlers, right? So in some
What did I
cases,
say?
with
With,
mostly by the
by,
settlers. Yes, yeah.
by is
The,
absolutely the preposition. Yes.
yes, and these, and every now and then, what we like to spread it out a little, and along with the Tongva Quiche people of the Los Angeles basin, we honor the Chumash people of the coastal area. I think once you get up by Malibu and north, certain Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, Chumash, the Kumeyaay or Kumeyaay people down in San Diego County area, and the uh, the Maringa Tweech speakers of the inland mountain areas and some of the inland areas, and the
Mm,
Kita Nemuk, and the of the Tehachapi and Antelope Valley, area, and the Tataviam of North LA County, and what is Ventura County, and I think parts of the San Fernando Valley even. So several nations that again still exist and often are in a struggle
yeah.
for federal recognition,
Mm-hmm.
though we
Mm-hmm.
always want to uplift the importance of recognizing themselves, right? Knowing who they are, regardless of the federal government. Um, though we know there are certain kinds of benefits, or at least facility that comes with recognition. And I'm also pretty sure, in terms of our recording, and I've I've done a recording before, and I know we are recording right now, but we're live. So I'm
We're
I'm
live.
because of I
We'll
pressed the
be
wrong
better.
button or the right button, whatever. So either way, we are keeping up with the promised that there would be a Joko for this Thursday.
Mhm.
The and our topic, right, is just looking. Well, actually, before we get to our topic, I did want to say, because we didn't acknowledge it last week, do want to acknowledge that yes, we do know this is Black History Month, um, and whatever the recognition of governments, federal governments, state, local governments, which what dates back to the 70s at some point, that
Mhm.
what used to be Negro History Week became
Mhm.
Black History Month. But that importance, right, for decades,
Mhm.
celebrated
Mhm.
internally as Negro History
Mhm.
Week, maybe in
Mhm.
public and private institutions, right? Black
Mhm.
institutions
Yes.
celebrating Negro History Week, and February chosen by the founder.
Mhm.
Um, the Miseducation of the Negro. I just went blank. What's his name?
Um. Oh my
Woodson.
God.
Carter G.
Oh,
Woodson.
come on.
No,
Carter
I
G.
got it.
Woodson.
Woodson. Yeah, I just
Carter
went
G.
blank for a
Woodson.
minute.
Yes.
Again, just in terms of acts of sovereignty, of agency, right? From of internal agency. Nobody gave us Black History Month, right? It developed from Negro History Week, and nobody gave us February. Dr. Woodson specifically chose February because it is the birthday month of Frederick Douglass, right? And also, I think because he chose it because it's the birthday month of Abraham Lincoln, and we understand, uh, Black people's attachment to Abraham Lincoln in this country, or at least, recognition of Lincoln.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
So we honor it, and we're before the month's over, we'll do something specific about it. But tonight, we wanted to talk about all the
Mhm.
news, because it's all the news and
Well,
everything in the news.
yeah.
It's certainly since the turn of the new year and the first weekend of the new year, there's been like a headline almost every day, it seems like, right? Um, and certainly in keeping with the strategy, the expressed strategy of this right wing ascendance, as articulated by Steve Bannon, right? The flood the zone thing. And yeah, they're flooding the zone, and as people I think have correctly commented, um, the biggest news still remains the Epstein files. And so
Mhm.
much of what is, maybe the timing of the things that they've done and that they do is to distract from the Epstein files.
Mhm.
Um, but even if they are deployed as distractions, which is really about the timing, they're all part of the plan, right? All of the
Mhm.
um, the actions of this presidential regime, right? So, what are we
Mhm.
talking about? The violation of Venezuela's sovereignty.
You know what? I got some categories.
Okay, go for it.
Let's see some, yeah, and we can fill them in as we go. I'll talk about the category. Maybe you have a category to add. Scandals. We got the
Hmm.
scandal, the scandalous, and the uh uh what is it? Scandalous and okay, I don't
Scurrilous. I don't know.
scurrilous. I was gonna say scurrilous, but it's not what I meant. But it sounds good. Scurrilous, right? The
Yes.
scandalous and the scurrilous. The international dysfunctional relations, domestic disruption. Um, and there are categories under that, and that which is to come. Right, the specter of more damage to come. So those are some categories, and you were about to talk about Venezuela.
Well, that's in the
National-
international. So, what was your
Yes.
category for that?
Um, International dysfunction, and under that, a couple of categories are war and rumors of war.
Well, really, international functioning, right, as they are actively, um,
Hmm.
trying to upset the international order. But again, revealing the emptiness of expressions like the international community, which has
Mm-hmm.
has always typically really meant
Mm-hmm.
the capitalist nations, right? Calling themselves the international community, the primarily the imperialist nations. So yeah, it started with the violation of Venezuela's sovereignty and the kidnapping of President Maduro. Um, uh, that is a headline for a week or
Mm.
two, but
Right.
even while it's a headline for a week or two, then there are other things happening right after it, right, domestically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it it's kind of fallen out of the headlines, right? But it continues to still be an issue, and there are all these again purposeful um, ramifications, particularly the
Mm.
challenge that international crime has presented to Cuba, as again as part of an effort to further isolate Cuba and literally starve the Cubans into regime change or
Mm-hmm.
social unrest, right? Which has long
Mm-hmm.
been a policy of the
Mm-hmm.
West generally, and particularly the United States, right? Instability
Mm-hmm.
in certain places. The difference now is the current regime, the Trump regime, is creating instability among the NATO allies also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this re-emergence of manifest destiny,
Yes. Attempt to
right?
claim what reclaim the Western Hemisphere with this notion of taking back what's ours. This
Taking
notion of
back what's ours,
claiming
right?
the Western Hemisphere.
Hemisphere,
Wow.
which again, you know, goes back to the 19th century, right? It is our
Mm-hmm.
manifest destiny to
Mm-hmm.
overreach the continent.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest, this whole notion of Latin America and the Caribbean as the United States backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which I guess means Canada is the front yard, and you know, so there's that news, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unsettling of the international order
Mm-hmm.
to keep our heads spinning,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So invading, violating the sovereignty of countries, threatening to violate the sovereignty of other countries. A year into the unnecessary trade war, right, that the Trump regime basically declared on the world. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, continuing to use economic pressure to uh, to force other countries to support, its agenda against Cuba, for example. So, this is recent news, right, on that international front, right, demanding that Caribbean countries and Central American countries cut ties with Cuban medical teams, right? Cuban medics, um, or face consequences of some type, right? Face
Mhm.
tariffs of some type, or
Mhm.
and these are countries that are have populations smaller than some neighborhoods, in U.S. cities. Um, so how long can they resist the pressure, and certainly how long can they resist the pressure without some kind of regional unity, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, so
With
that part, that international dysfunction, um,
mhm.
misfunction,
Mhm.
defunction, uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
that probably
Throwing
isn't
bodies
in the
around.
news enough, actually.
Mhm. 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 You have to go into um specific independent media enclaves,
Hmm.
right, online to
Hmm.
find continuous reporting on uh, on those effects and
Yeah.
those developments. And then the uh, war and rumors of war. The that you just talked about, the strong arming in Venezuela, the uh, attacks, the kidnapping, the arbitrary bombing of Nigeria.
Yep.
Um, just a little, just throw something over in Africa since these Sahelians are acting up. You know, um,
Hmm.
so bomb an ally, bomb someone
Bomb
who's not
Nigeria,
even acting up.
bomb Somalia. Hmm.
Bombing in Africa, the uh, uh, escalating with Iran, escalating with Iran.
Yes.
Um, all of these things, the head on the swivel. I think that's a really great description. Keeping the head spinning, right? Because you can't not look. You can't
Right.
not look, right? And obviously, all of this is contributing again in that same way. Some folk have some kind of means to maintain some kind of distance. If they, you haven't, you can keep yourself in some kind of bubble, and yet it is
Hmm.
there. And so now this, it enlarges. You're not only walking over the houseless people, you're not only aware of, right, you're aware of all of these um just incredibly
Hmm.
grave situations, incredibly grave implications, right, all at once. And then there's also a lot of what do they call it? Saber rattling and running up and then running back. I'm co- I'm coming into Greenland. I'll use force if necessary. I'll da 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 da. To the extent that people begin to deploy and do exercises. Oh, well, I don't have to. Maybe I won't.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? This kind of
Hmm.
this toying, this
Right.
toying. Um, and
Which is a
apparently
dangerous game to play. Right.
very dangerous game to play. Dangerous game to play, and I think a game not easily or soon forgotten. You know,
Hmm.
even with an administrative regime change. A change in administration. Um,
That's
And
right.
I say that because one does not see like some identifiably strong, highly critical opposition party. Not really. The Democrats aren't
Well,
really offering. Yeah, I mean, they're going to say, oh, this is
certainly
terrible, girlfriend. What are
not
you
the
doing?
Democratic leadership. You
Yeah,
know, the ones in
yeah,
control of the
exactly.
party.
Exactly. So I mean, there's never any other way to describe it but volatile. All of the balls
Hmm.
are up in the air. It's
Hmm.
anybody's game. And as folks are saying, the and it's also becomes a thought piece, becomes a, and when I say a thought piece, becomes something that people are thinking about, that's staying right at the threshold, right? And right in
Hmm.
the realm, in the category of things I can do nothing about that are terribly dangerous and destabilizing, and I have no idea how to respond. I don't know what to do with
Right.
this, you
Which
know?
is the rationale for the tactic, right, of
Mhm,
flooding the
mhm,
zone, right, to
mhm.
overwhelm people's ability to respond.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And so, um, it's very interesting. I had the pleasure at my school site today to have an extended conversation with one of the teaching assistants, and it was one of those game knows game
Hmm.
exchanges. Um, a Latina sister who was maybe a little bit younger than us, maybe 10 years our junior. She may have, you know what I mean? I'm going to give her a little bit more, maybe in her 40s, late 40s or whatnot. But, we went right to the conversation about, just the conversation about what we're facing, how we're facing it, the problem of lack of political education and sophistication in the communities in order to, you know what I mean? All these parts of the conversation were there. And um, this is so, but one of those things that we talked about was the problem of um, the lack of the whole ignorance issue, the whole American ignorance issue, and the way that necessarily plays into these folks having, being able to position. And we talk about these folks being able to position, and we, all of the conversation about the billionaires pervert club, and the political ties and influence and all of that. And then there are the folks who are doing the long term planning over the last, 60 years, figuring out how to put the cat back in the bag, right? And so here we are at this place where you have a lot of people with a lot of different sets of ideas, uh, primed to go into a whole bunch of different directions as another expression of that um, blitz effect, right? Where it's even more difficult for the impacted to have a unified understanding, you know, and to kind of marshal themselves. And at the same time, and as it happened in our conversation today, folks are having these conversations and asking questions, and there is a huge resistance. So, with or without, everybody has they're identifying something that they're resisting, and so there's like right all of this great potential um, for creating that united front, for answering some of these unanswered questions, and for um, influencing that narrative, right? In terms of what we think we have to work and what we think the goals are, you know. And so yeah, so yeah, you know, the scandals. I mean, we can get to
Well,
the
before you go on to the scandals, right? I mean,
yeah.
some of the the flooding the zone stuff. It's also what isn't in the news. Um, what isn't. It hasn't been a big enough story in terms of the planned, the cultivated ignorance of people. How much damage has been done to the Department of Education. No, that hasn't been enough. It gets in. It's been in the news, but not nearly as much as it should. Um, so that Linda McMahon has been
Man.
able to be quite effective
Yeah.
in dismantling, because that one of the failures of the mainstream media, but it's also the mainstream media that is a target of this flood, right? So that they can't
Mm-hmm.
have difficulty settling on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Although it is the scandal that they've been able to, the scandal that they've been able to anchor themselves to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
another story on that international front that I don't think is getting enough play, right? Enough discussion is the way in which this regime has increased
Hmm.
the nuclear danger,
Right.
and is really has also, again, an underreported story,
Mm-hmm.
has committed, right, to um, nuclear proliferation, or at least refitting or renuclearizing, right? That, but a commitment to nuclear
Mm-hmm.
armament,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which for a couple of decades now, since the fall of the Soviet Union, has not been in the news enough, right? Because the danger hasn't gone anywhere. In some ways, it's become
Mm-hmm.
more dangerous. So that's been kind of going under the radar, right? This
Yeah.
particular regime's nuclear policy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
related to war. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and energy too, but we can come back around to that because you brought up the scandals. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's the scandal that they would
Mm-hmm.
like to keep out of the news but won't go
Mm-hmm.
away, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Epstein files,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which,
Mm-hmm.
every time there's a file drop or a news drop, the scandal just deepens and broadens, as more and more individuals are brought into it, as names are revealed in relationships and whatever. So that's a scandal that won't go away. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe, well, it's certainly the one doing damage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
at least the
Yeah.
rest of the international ruling class, we're seeing some repercussions and folks really
Mm-hmm.
scrambling to try to hold on to power because of it. While
Mm-hmm.
here, right, the
Mm-hmm.
denial,
Mm-hmm.
really the scandal just deepens,
Mm-hmm.
as again, we more and more reports of the how extensive uh, Trump is in the files, whatever they
Right.
may say about him.
Right.
Um, and the ongoing lack of accountability. Maybe a couple of
Yeah.
U.S. CEOs or something have had some kind of, maybe, right. I guess at least one doctor lost his job, and maybe another, but not much, right? And certainly not the the man
Appropriate called for. Mm-hmm.
that is was
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Epstein's best friend for a long time, and continue to have, or as the files reveal, continue to have some kind of relationship with him even after the so-called
Mm-hmm.
split. um,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may be, considering the how transactional
Mm-hmm.
Trump is,
Mm-hmm.
and Epstein certainly seems to have been.
Mm-hmm.
So that one won't go away, that scandal. But there
Mm-hmm.
are all these other kinds of scandals. I mean, what there are other scandals, because this is a scandalous crew, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, some scandals have been lost from the news.
Mm-hmm.
The misappropriation, or the way in which Kash Patel uses federal money, right, for private things like flying his girlfriend around and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether or not the uh, secretary for the Department of Homeland Security is having an affair with her secondhand man or something like that. This
Mm-hmm.
Corey guy, that some people are finding scandalous,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly the scandal of how she runs that department, right?
Yeah.
This just the scandalous character of
Mm-hmm.
this repression, um,
Mm-hmm.
the scandal of arresting journalists, all of whom for doing their job, actually,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
all of whom apparently, seem to be black. It's the black journalists that are getting
Mm-hmm.
arrested,
Mm-hmm.
and charged with, civil rights offenses and KKK
Right.
laws, right? Because they love
Right. Right.
the slap in the face of such things, right?
Right. 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 And
So,
they're
I mean,
right.
all the scan. Go ahead, yeah, all the various. I mean that must also include all the corruption, right? The
Mm-hmm.
crypto corruption.
That was next. Yeah, the merch.
Go ahead, yeah,
That's just it. Right? The merch, the visas for the rich, the cryptocurrency, the accepting what is it, jets from from your wealthy national leaders of other countries and saying, "Oh, I'm accepting this on the behalf of the United States. This is
and
a
your
gift to the
gold
nation, not a personal
trophies,
gift."
your solid gold little gifts, and
All of the things,
the
all of the
offshore bank
things
account for the profits from Venezuelan oil that is already illegally seized,
already illegally
sanctioned
seized.
oil, they say.
Piracy, add that to
Piracy.
the list. Piracy,
But but
right? The
but
piracy.
this, right?
Yeah,
But that a an offshore account has been created, not send money not going into the U.S. Treasury, but into some offshore account
right,
that only the
right,
president has access to. Is this what I'm to understand?
right. What in the heck? What in the heck? Or a board of peace wherein world leaders will pay $1 billion to be a member of
To be
this
a member of the
said
board of
board of
peace.
peace to resist the UN, to try to subvert and upturn
Hmm.
uh, uh, that
Hmm.
entity with its
Hmm.
projection for extending human rights globally, and that's their their symbolic value, at least. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
at the
A
very
symbol,
least, right?
an
And some of
important.
those original signers of the UN Charter, were folks associated with that, right? With
Hmm.
um, a response to the crimes of World War II and colonialism, and a commitment to human rights. That it is the
Hmm.
UN or
Hmm.
folks in the UN responsible for
Yes,
the Universal
yes,
Declaration of Human Rights.
because there is actually, right, and fundamentally we always return to that big picture view, the desire to up overturn the 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 new convention of human rights for all
Yeah,
post that colonial area, and to return also in as a matter of values, as a matter of um kind of a fundamental, um more fundamentally up overturn that ethic, overturn that expectation,
yeah,
overturn the notion that this is a good, right? So this um the attack on the UN as an entity represents that as well, right? So yeah,
yes, it does.
the board of peace, it's interesting. Just whip that together. Um, in which he will preside on, over which he will preside indefinitely, collect all the money, and have full discretion as to how that money is used and spent
So we
and
see how both
so
the international dysfunction and the corruption come together,
right,
right?
come together.
And as they come
Initial,
together domestically also, right? As people are have
absolutely,
essentially been buying pardons, right? You know,
absolutely,
think about all of
absolutely.
the so all the
Mm,
talk of crime in the United States
mm,
and who the criminals are
mm, mm,
and what
mm-hmm.
this deportation move is supposed to be about, you know, the so-called worst of
Absolutely,
the worst and all this.
and all that.
Except we
Mm-hmm.
know from research
Mm-hmm.
that they ignore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are not interested in data that doesn't
Mm-mm.
support their already, you know, their conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
We already know
Mm-hmm.
that the immigrant population generally, whether documented
Mm-hmm.
or not, or whatever the status of documentation,
Mm-hmm.
are the least likely group to commit crimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we know that, right? We know for all of the drama, the upset, etc., about you know crash and grab or smash and grab, you know, shoplifting and all this other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, all of the fears around violent crime, etc., right? We do know that the most crime in the United States that isn't interpersonal crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between often between someone who, you know, a victim who knows the perpetrator, right? That
Mm-hmm.
most crime is white collar crime,
Mm-hmm.
and the white collar crime, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
this has been demonstrated through research, through
Mm-hmm.
statistical research,
Mm-hmm.
empirical data. Most crime is white collar crime, and white collar crime is infinitely more damaging
Damaging. Absolutely. On the
than
whole.
smaller scale, even, you know, theft, robbery, burglary stuff, right? Um,
Mm-hmm. I
and
believe the
who's getting the pardons? The white collar criminals, right?
yes.
And
Yes.
of course, the violent criminals of January 6th.
Yes.
But
And a couple of yeah.
and what?
I was saying, and at least a couple of sex traffickers
Yeah, yeah,
with the Tate
exactly.
brothers. At least a couple of
Yes, that's
sex
right.
traffickers. You know.
Or at
Um,
least getting, you know, facilitated to get out of the country where they were, you know, being indicted, you know.
mm-hmm.
So um
Mm-hmm.
talk about scam. And then okay, so, you know, and then there's all
Helping
the other news, right?
helping
All,
the same class criminals avoid accountability, punishment, legal, whether
yes,
by pardon, whether by
yes,
other mechanisms, that just that
exactly.
particular, and
Offering
you know,
cover, aid,
in the open,
aiding and abetting, right?
absolutely aiding and abetting. Go ahead. You were saying, you're about to
Well, I'm just
say
saying, you know, all the other news, right? Because we've barely scratched the surface.
it's
Just
impossible.
the
Yeah.
right, just what was the attack on? Yeah, I'm calling it an attack, right? So the the seizing of 2020 ballots in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, the open
Mm-hmm.
planning for ways in
Mm-hmm.
which they can um,
Yes.
manipulate
Yes.
the 2026 midterm elections, because the
Yes.
pattern has already been set that
Yes.
his party is going to lose.
Yes.
Trump is very clear, if Congress is lost to the Democrats, he will be impeached.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Democrats somehow get the Senate, and because of the unpopularity of Trump, and despite
Yeah.
the unpopularity of the Democrats, primarily
Yes.
because of its leadership, the Senate is in play. because all these things they're trying to do continues to backfire on them because of their behavior, right? The gerrymandering is apparently backfiring on them, right? As they thought
Mhm.
they might
Mhm.
have, certain voters forever,
Mhm.
and they've
Mhm.
already immediately alienated those voters. And
Mhm.
so, just again, recent news. Another Democratic socialist has been elected, or has won the primary in New Jersey
Mhm.
for a congressional seat, and will
Mhm.
likely beat the Republican because it's a very blue district. And
Mhm.
the Democrats did not want the kind of mainstream, even if leaning liberal or progressive mainstream Democrat. They wanted the genuine, authentic
Mhm.
leftist Democrat, right, to win. So
Mhm.
that happened. Um, and that's continuing to happen, right? And so because they see that, that news, that part of the news, right, the efforts already underway to intervene in the 2026 midterm elections, in November, you know that domestic
Mhm.
news,
Mhm. Mhm.
this mess of the cabinet members, going before Congress and just being combative.
Oh yeah.
But again,
Mhm.
because it's spectacle.
Yes.
Trump loves it because he loves spectacle, and he liked it, and certainly likes it when the spectacle seems like you're protecting him,
Mhm.
and it gets people talking about it. Right? It becomes the news. So
Right.
another
Right.
form, and it is in its way newsworthy because you think about this spectacle yesterday with Pam Bondi. Yeah, it becomes the news, but then all the information that she's not sharing from the files, right, and all the obfuscation and distraction,
Mhm.
is the information we aren't getting because we're focused on her performance, right, and
Right.
you know, and how much of that, um,
Yes.
when any of these folks, come before Congress, and so that part of the news flood, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Um the part about and looking at these traumatizing this well, all of it is traumatic, but the people who are experiencing the direct violence of the police state now, the people being abducted, um, the people being arrested and detained, um, and deported, and having all of these, um, catching all of the violence of the state. But of course, we understand that that's quickly expanding, right? Um, which, of course, those who follow and kind of are understanding this dynamics knew that it would quickly expand, outside of the realm of the so-called criminal immigrant, uh, the fabled criminal immigrant population. Um, but what is it up to? And I'm just snatching this number offline. Something like 393,000. Let me find my note. 393,000 arrests. Um, and so well, these notes aren't organized, so I can only do so much to quickly redistribute this information. But this is like it's not; these are like known numbers and the numbers that are being talked about. So it's not like it's not these are the consensus understandings. Within the year, um, through from last January to the end of this January, um, 229,000 were classified as criminal, whatever that means. beyond what it means as a token. You know what I'm saying? Oh, criminal. And every just say the word and it invokes what it invokes. But it's not necessarily what it means, as they've criminalized something that is not criminal in a legal sense, right? This border crossing without papers, which in itself is a misrepresentation because most folk do not enter illegally.
Most
Um,
undocumented folks are folks who overstayed their visa.
who have overstayed visas,
So
right?
they entered the
And
country legally.
hmm and through the
Um,
legal
yeah,
ports, through the ports set up
they
for to
everything
receive
exactly,
to receive them, and etc.
exactly.
Um,
I
but
mean,
there's this,
that bears repeating. The largest number of folks who other
mhm,
some people call illegal aliens, that is to say,
yes,
folks who are undocumented or their
yes,
legal status is some are people who
yes,
primarily are people who entered the country legally, as you said, through legal ports of entry and
hmm
have overstayed their visas. They
visas,
are not
hmm yeah,
so-called invaders from south of the border, blah 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 stuff, right? That
invading
as you
hordes,
know,
right,
the image of the
right,
immigrant.
right, right. Yes, definitely bears repeating and repeating because the myth looms so large. The story,
Because
the
the myth
lie,
looms so
the
large.
construct looms so large and just passes for common sense,
Right.
passes for, well, you know what I mean, right? So you start having these
Mhm.
conversations
Well, I
about,
believe in a strong border,
I
conversation.
believe in a strong border. And it's, I don't mind people being here, but just do it legally. It becomes this nonsensical conversation because it's non-based
Because
in
it's
the
uninformed.
realities.
Yeah,
Huh?
exactly. Because it's uninformed, right? It's
It's
uninformed of the
uninformed,
actual.
non-based in the realities of how immigration works, how migration has worked, um, the actualities of the situation. So 229,000 classified as criminal, 153,000 administrative, and over 40%, and we know it's more than that, lacking criminal records, right?
Hmm.
um, of any kind, lacking criminal records. So um, the um, the folks that are impacted by the violence, there is something that's circulating these days, an interview that happened with an Irish detainee uh, who I don't know too much about the person, but he's doing an interview talking about the conditions, of the detention center and um, the things that we know. People do not have, are denied access to their legal representation. People are underfed. People are living in filthy conditions. People do not have access to medical care and medicine. All the things that we know. Um, and all of that uh, looming and coming in, right? A lot of people self deporting, right? And so this morass of um, of events, this morass of events. What I wanted to look at also, or make some mention of, and if I can find it, the number of, you may know off the top, the number of detention centers, new detention centers being built.
No, I don't know, but the fact is they're being built, right? And,
They're absolutely being built,
or being bought. In some cases, they're trying to buy
repurposed,
warehouses and
old,
things,
right,
and they're
right.
also being resisted, though, right?
Hmm.
Towns and counties are resisting, and so in several places they've been rebuffed um,
Mm-hmm.
because folks don't want these detention centers, and also again their program is becoming, less popular the more they go forward with it. Um, so yeah, I don't know the number across, but I know that they it would cover the continental United States. And now
Mm-hmm.
this is a story. It's from some time back. There was even talk of an island somewhere that basically the United States looking to create its own version of the French's Devil's Island,
Mm-hmm.
prison
Mm-hmm.
island. But
Mm-hmm.
that story was a while back. I can't remember the details or where the island
Mm-hmm.
might be. And it's not Greenland. They were thinking of something else um, for that. But yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
news too, right? Of that, right? The efforts to create this network but are effectively concentration camps,
Effectively, concentration
uh,
camps.
which are
Yeah,
already kind of operating right in these so-called detention centers.
absolutely. They walk. Um. What is it? It. They walk, talk, and look like concentration camps.
Right.
So this is what they are. Um. A number. Um. The fundamental number is something like 70,000 people in
Mm-hmm.
detention as
Mm-hmm.
of early February.
Can we
Texas,
pivot?
Louisiana. Huh?
Can we
Go ahead.
pivot to what we do about how do we weather the news blitz, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
let's pivot
constant,
to the weathering. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and I think one part of it is resisting the blitz, right?
Mhm.
Just because a new headline pops up doesn't mean you have to go down that hole, right? So working
Yes.
to
Yes.
to maintain a focus, right? Um,
Yes.
and kind of a division of labor, right? If you're already an
Precisely.
activist, and this,
Yeah.
if your lane is here, don't be distracted by that other thing, right? Let
Yeah.
your comrades who are in that lane take care of it, and
Yeah.
try to stay focused because the point is to keep us spinning, right? So
Yeah.
resist the spin.
Resist the
See the
spin.
headline, and know your people got it.
Mhm. And create community around
Mm-hmm.
uh uh having those correspondent folk share
Yep.
that information from their particular lanes,
Yeah.
um and yeah, building building in that way, building in that way. um
Mm-hmm.
and the sorting, I think sorting is a good tool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, everything is a headline, a dramatic headline floating in space, it goes
Mm-hmm.
to that, going to trusted sources for, again, continual reporting, opting for that over the so-called doom scrolling,
Yeah.
you know, opting for that over the doom scrolling. Um, again, for that sense of continuity, which in itself helps you see the long roots of a particular event of the moment, right? And in
Yes.
itself has a stabilizing force that actually has a kind of centering force, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, Centering effect, where it's like, okay, so an orienting effect, right? So, okay, here we're at this point in this iteration of this particular um, storyline, this particular storyline. So, yeah, getting out of the, um, getting out of the, uh, uh, don't allow your head to spin, don't
Yeah.
respond
Yeah.
to
Chasing the
it.
headline, right? You know.
Even
Yeah.
on this day I'm gonna follow up on this
Mm-hmm.
particular line on this
Exactly.
day,
Yes.
because accepting the fundamental reality, the fundamental truth, I'm not going to be able to um uh be in all of these
Mm-hmm.
different places. There is something I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
miss
Mm-hmm.
along the
Right.
lines, and okay, you know it's actually
Yes.
okay, you
And
know.
making the connections between the various events, right? Because they
Hmm.
aren't disconnected, right? And
Right at all.
if you need to kind of step back and see, well, what how do these things relate, and and how do they relate to what seems to be the long plan, right? So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, yeah,
Hmm.
resisting resisting
Hmm.
the spectacle of the moment, right? And
Hmm.
trying to see the bigger pattern, um, and work on the focus, and the things again with all the news, a headline here and a headline there.
Hmm.
There's still so much going unreported or
Hmm.
underreported. Um,
Hmm.
and so even
Hmm.
what's being left unsaid, by the
Hmm.
various things, and
Hmm.
what does really seem to be clickbait, specifically, again, to keep us distracted, right? I mean, did anyone really not know that Donald Trump is a racist and particularly
Right.
anti-black?
Right.
That you're
Right.
now, yeah,
Yeah.
the social media post with the Obamas, yeah, despicable, but a despicable
Yeah.
person. I mean, what and,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so that doesn't need to be a distraction. That's just a
No.
confirmation of what you already know, right? And
Yeah.
so we don't
Yes.
have to spend the next 3 to 4 days of a news cycle on it, right? And
At
um,
all.
so let us be discerning in what is
Hmm.
being
Hmm.
delivered to us, and what is revealing. I
Hmm.
don't the what was it, shut up piggy, and
Yeah.
you should smile more, you're
Yeah.
young, you should smile more. Those are
Yeah.
very revealing, right? That
Yes.
is worth, because here, um, that's a sign of weakness, right? That unable to maintain any,
Yeah.
level of. I mean, the man barely does.
Decorum. He doesn't have any of that anyway.
Right, right. But
Yes.
even
Yes.
he has a hold back, and I'm gonna let him see my full face, right? And
Hmm.
so that's in some ways that's more revealing than what seems to be a very calculated. Let's do this Lion King, whatever, right? So
Whatever. Yeah, it's just stupid.
um,
Get caught up in a conversation with that. There's no
let's not
conversation
exactly.
involved.
So
Yeah.
resist the, I guess, what in the social media parlance. Let's recognize the clickbait and not
Yes.
click,
Yes.
right?
Don't click.
Things
Don't
that we
click.
already know to be
Yeah.
true. If you're
Yeah.
really concerned about Donald Trump's racism, and we should be, I mean, they're ethnically cleansing, right? They are attempting to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Again, something mentioned earlier, um, this arrest of black journalists, right?
Yes.
And the dismantling of these of black institutions, uh,
Yeah.
um, the removal of historical
Hmm.
plaques, right? That stuff
Yes.
matters, right? And
It's
it's
the
more, it's both symbolic, but just because something's symbolic doesn't mean it isn't of great import, right?
yeah,
So.
it's both symbolic and it's an infrastructure change, because these,
Hmm.
like Black History Month, like the plaque, whatever, plaques and honorific images or whatever that are present in institutions and in national parks and in, right,
Right.
that are bringing the relevance, right, of, and it's not a critique of what it could be and what it doesn't do and is it radical enough. It's not that. It brings it represents that taking up, as you say, of democratic space. It represents presence. It represents that new value
Exactly.
system of inclusivity, and the
It is
act
an
of removing it.
intervention. Yes.
Yes, and an important intervention. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
All these
We
things
know
they
it
have
doesn't represent
just over
liberation.
these last 40 years intervention.
Yes, it matters that for that in large part, and this is not a uh, some kind of statement or assertion that there's no problem with anti-black white violence, and certainly in the last 20 some odd years, and whatnot, the uptick. But it does matter that for large part our children don't know, and many of us in certain generations, maybe my generation down, don't know what it is to walk around with the sense that I can't go here, I can't go there, I can't be here, I can't be there. You know what I'm saying? The what is it? The desegregation in public institutions, or public facilities and public spaces and whatnot, um, is a difference, and a meaningful difference. There
Yes,
is
it is.
has
It
been
is a meaningful difference. It's quality of
meaningful
life,
difference. It is
a
a
quality of life
de-escalation.
issue, even,
It's
right?
a quality of life difference. It's a de-escalation of that our vulnerability to white settler violence, right?
Yes.
And so, but we also are able to have the long view that helps us to, that has us understand that this is a what we've been experiencing is an aberration. That's the aberration,
And that's the
and
importance
that
of,
we have
right, exactly. Exactly.
and that we're
That's
going to have to
to,
do what we're
to
going to
cut
have
you
to
off
do.
from that, to cut us all
Go
off
on.
from that memory. Right. Well, to
To
cut
cut
us
us
off
off.
from the, so there's no context for current conditions. It must be your fault.
Exactly. And that is right. And that is dangerous in many ways, to understand that what we have had in place is an aberration from a theme, leaves us less vulnerable, or rather I said
Yes,
leaves us more
exactly.
vulnerable, right? So there's gaps to fill in, because there still are people who have a living memory, and still are people who have, at least, as Baba used to tell me, a mediated memory, a mediated experience, and the information is abundantly available, right? But um um okay, I lost my train of thought, but that's all right. I lost the train of thought, but that's all
Well,
right. I'm
we
not going
need
to
to
keep going.
wrap up anyway. We've already
Yes, we
gone more
do.
than an hour.
Yes,
And
we
there's
do.
more news than we can handle because the whole point is it's news blitz, right?
What I did want to say is it's also okay. Part of the effect is the compelling nature, and you're picking up the phone and you're finding out what's going on and what's happening. It's okay to put it down for a few days and catch your breath before you
Yes.
pick it back up, as a matter of necessity, because one must understand. You know what I'm saying? But it's also okay to put it down for a couple of days and take a break from all of the from the onslaught. Yeah.
Yes. Well, soldiers have to be rotated so that they can stay effective, and that goes for activists also. You know,
Yes, indeed.
that is part. Rest is part of resistance. It too must be done strategically and
Yes.
tactically. But yes, it is. We all need recovery time, and time to strategize. Right. So, and that too is part of the blitz. Right. To not give time. to strategize, which is why we, resist the news blitz, maintain your focus, and as you were saying, right, we have the community, the relationships, the networks to know that we can remain focused in this lane because our comrades are handling that other lane, right? As we divide the labor of resistance and revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to close on this weathering the news blitz, and we barely got to the news. I mean, there's so many. That's the whole point. There's so many news stories out there that
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if we scratched the surface. We might have just poked the surface a little bit because of the just how much and everywhere and in every sector. And again, that being purposeful a purposeful strategy on the part of the right wing as represented by folks like Steve Bannon,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh,
Mm-hmm. The
Stephen
propaganda
Miller,
machine, the
and
psyops machine. Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to close. And Tasha, you got any final comments?
Yeah, stay up, get organized. If you're not a member of an organization, reach out to some that appeal to you so that you can stay in community and actually put into practice that division of labor, uh, informational labor concept, and also properly distribute that energy. Because I heard saw a lovely um, uh, phrase uh, the other day that the antidote for the anxiety is action. That's the antidote.
That's
And
correct.
so as more and more people move to that, that's where we're going to be able to get reoriented and focused in order to effectively resist. And we have again and again and again, and we're about to launch into even greater liberatory space. So we're doing it. That's all the rest that I have to say.
That's plenty. Thank you. Whenever you're watching this, we appreciate you. Though, and again, I think we inadvertently live streamed, even though we were really just trying to record and post later. So we appreciate because we saw, had a couple of live viewers. Thank you. And if you're watching this later on recording, thank you. We want to encourage all of you to subscribe to our channel on the Joko Collective channel on YouTube. Do like this video, help us with the algorithm, and please share the video. And we will be back next Thursday with another Joko conversation. And who knows if something gets put up before then, but definitely next Thursday. All right, folks. As I like to close every week, quoting Bob Marley from the Natty Dread album, the song Revolution. Revelation reveals the truth. It takes a revolution to make a solution. So let's make a revolution, y'all, and we will see you next week.